2017. And one of the main components of my role is fundraising. And I love some of the words you all dropped into the chat, because I think oftentimes we kind of misinterpret what that role means. And really it is all about relationships and mindsets and reciprocity. So I think that is a great sort of way to start off our session today. So first things first, next slide, please. I would love for you all to grab this link. Charlotte's going to drop it in the chat as well. These are your worksheets for today. Really all this is just a helpful guide, something that you can jot down notes on while I'm chatting. Feel free to use it or don't, but it's a great thing to refer back to after the session to look at the things that you wanted to remember. So I'll give you all just a minute to go ahead and download your worksheet there. Lou or Charlotte, can you drop the link in the chat, please? There we go. It's in the chat now. All right, I'm going to move us right along. I'm excited to get into this content today. So today we're talking about fundraising strategy and techniques. As Lou mentioned, last session was the first workshop in this sort of section of fundraising strategy and techniques. So I'm kind of excited to build on what Joanne, our CEO, did last time. Next slide, please. So this should look familiar for those who participated in the budgeting workshop. At Radical Partners, we love to shout out Felicia Hatcher for her formula for success, because I just think it really does capture what we need trying to become an expert at something, or when we're trying to grow our skill set. So her formula for success is all about first starting with mindset shifts, then building your skill set, and then moving into your toolkits. So if you move to the next slide, please, Lou. Last session with Joanne, she covered budgeting, and she really spent a lot of time on mindset and skill sets. She went over budgeting, she went over the mindset shift and how you approach fundraising. Today, we're going to dive into particular, very specific toolkits around fundraising strategy. So now that you've built a budget, which happened in the last workshop, you know how much money to ask for. So today we're going to spend time focusing on making the ask. So we're going to go over a few different ways of making the ask, and then also spend some time practicing our asks. And once you've gotten the funding, we're going to spend some time talking about how we nurture those relationships. Next slide, please. So I'm going to dive right in and start us off kind of in a comfort zone, if you will. I think that probably most of you, if not every single one of you on this call, has some familiarity with grant writing, right? You know, when we're running a nonprofit, grant writing is one of the most obvious and common ways that we go about fundraising for our organizations. So I wanted to start us off here, kind of easing into this particular way of making an ask, which is grant writing, right? Filling out a grant, finding an opportunity and submitting an application. A lot of these are going to feel really familiar to you. That's good. We're just going to review these best practices. Feel free to jump in the chat if you see one that we've missed. But I'm going to move through them pretty quickly. The first one is to be 100% clear on how you align with giving priorities, right? You want to make sure you're doing your research in advance and understanding how your program aligns with the specific giving priorities of that foundation or that corporate donor. Number two, know how this donor likes to communicate. There are some grant writing processes that make it very, very clear on their website that they don't accept phone calls, or they don't accept unsolicited outreach, to only email one particular email, or to only communicate through the portal. Follow those rules. It gives them a really good sense of whether you're reading instructions and whether you're respecting their policies. So figure out how they like to communicate and stick to that. The third one, not surprising, work backwards from your due date. To the best of your ability, think about, okay, if this is due, in 6 weeks, put that in your calendar and then work backwards. How long is it going to take me to draft? How long is it going to take me to review? How long is it going to take me to upload and submit? Making sure you're thinking about all the attachments that are involved. One of my favorite things is when funders put all of the questions of the grant in a PDF for you to download. Can I get like a hands up for that? Like, isn't that just the best when you don't have to go through the whole process to figure out all the questions that they're going to ask you as you go? That really helps me plan things out in advance, is reading the whole application and working backwards. Number 4, get to the point. Especially really early on. Thank you, Laura. I saw your hands up. I feel you. It makes me so happy when they do that. Number 4 is get to the point. Think about your reader when you're writing. As quickly as possible in your application, you want them to understand the crux of who you are and why you're writing. Like, hook them in as early as possible. This is linked to number 5. Have a super clear mission statement. This is something you should have worked on in advance. This is something you work on with your team. This is something that's on your website. Make sure your mission statement is really clear. Number 6, be aligned to your theory of change. I know that the very first workshop for this Open for Business Technical Assistance Program was all about theory of change, understanding why you do what you do. What problem is it that you're trying to solve? That is really going to be a guiding practice for you throughout your grant application. Be clear about how you're going to measure your impact. One of the things that donors want to see in a grant application is that you're really clear about how the funding is going to support you to attain specific outcomes or outputs, right? So have that in mind as you're writing and bring that impact language in as you're writing your grant application. Use a consistent budget template. Now you all have one, thanks to the last session. So if you did not get a chance, please do go check out the resources. The budget workshop was recorded. Joanne went through an amazing template that you can use over and over and over again. One of the things that transformed my fundraising practice was having the same budget template for every project. Of course, there are certain projects that might have one additional line item or one less, but it will make your life so much easier if you can fundraise for each project with a consistent budget template and have them all in one place. Review and revise. That goes without saying, right? You want to be the one to review, but also get a third party to review, revise, and edit your work before you submit. Number 10 is to leverage connections before sending. Anytime you can find a human being behind the portal or a connection or a relationship that you can leverage, that you can reach out to in advance of submitting your grant application, that you can ask for advice, maybe even ask if they'd be willing to jump on a call. It's not always possible, but if you can get that warm intro or you can get on a call before you submit something, it's always better that way to leverage those connections. Doesn't guarantee you're going to get the grant, but it does help to put a face to the name. This one I learned the hard way. Do not use express mail. Sometimes, especially older and smaller foundations, especially family foundations, they have a still sometimes surprising old school way of submitting things where you actually have to send it via mail. Do not wait till 12 hours before the deadline and count on USPS or UPS Express Mail to get it there in time. If you need to send something by mail, give yourself plenty of time to do that. And then number 12, finally, is be gracious if rejected, right? I know we've all been there. It's not a great feeling when you don't get a grant, especially when you felt really good about the alignment and you felt like everything else on this list was checked off with like a big check mark, like, oh yeah, I have a connection and super aligned with my mission. And so getting that no can be really challenging, but one of the best practices is to stay really gracious if you're rejected. Send a thank you note for the opportunity, ask how can continue to stay in touch, sign up for their newsletter. You'd be surprised how that graciousness can actually make a really good impact on that funder and potentially influence your likelihood of getting funded in the future. So if there's anything I missed, please feel free to drop it in the chat. I know this is like things that we do all the time, but it's just good sometimes to remind ourselves of these best practices and have them right in front of us. Awesome. I'm going to move us on to the next slide. So another way to raise money beyond grant proposals is to identify a key list of potential donors and make individual asks. I know that this part can be sometimes the most challenging, right? So what we're going to try to do today is demystify how to ask for money by going through 7 specific scripts for 7 types of asks. I want to give RFL, Rebecca Fishman-Lipsey, a big shout out here. She is the one who taught me this content way back when, and it has transformed the way that I fundraise. And we've continued to kind of evolve and adapt this content every year, but big shout out to her because she is the master at this. For some of you in the room, I'm looking at you, Radical Partners alums, this might be a refresher, which is great because that means that you all can chime in. You can share if you've used any of these asks since you learned this. And remember that practice makes perfect. So again, this reminding yourself and having a chance to revise these things. So I'm going to move through these asks pretty quickly, but we are going to have time at the end for question and answers. So please jot down your questions and we will definitely be able to go over them in the end. All right, I'm going to move us on to the next slide, please. So the first ask is the pre-ask. Lisa, I'm really looking forward to sitting down with you next week to talk about Radical Partners. I'm very inspired by what you've built at Highline Ventures, and I'm really excited to pick your brain and learn from your experience. I'm also hoping there's a good way to involve you in our work at RP. I'm hoping that after we speak, you'll be excited to engage in our work, or even I'm hoping to ask for your support. Okay, that is a way of prepping the funder to know you're going to ask them for money. It's the pre-ask. When you put that in an email or on a phone call before you sit down with them and ask them for money, it kind of just takes that pressure off, right? It's like, you know, you're in that meeting face to face and you're like, okay, when am I going to switch into ask mode? No, this is a donor. This is somebody who is a philanthropist. This is somebody who is used to being asked for money. If they know coming into that meeting that you're priming them with a pre-ask, it just kind of releases the pressure valve a little bit for when you're sitting face to face. Next slide, please. This one we like to call the champion. All right, Lisa, I am launching a massive project next year called the Race to 5 Million. I cannot announce this project until I raise my first million. It's a huge idea. It's going to get a lot of attention and traction for our community. And I need a champion to stand with me when it's just an idea, to pledge the first million so that everyone else will follow. Will you be my champion? This is a great one for a funder who likes visibility, who likes to be innovative, who likes to get in at the ground floor, who wants to be cited as being the champion of this new big thing that you're building. So this can be the right type of ask for somebody of that profile. All right, next. The giving pyramid. So I'm actually going to have you go to the next slide, Lou, while I'm reading this because it'll be much easier to picture. So this one is the giving pyramid. I am launching a massive project called The Collective. It's a $3.5 million project. I realize that I cannot raise it all 100K at a time. I need big gifts. I'm going to try to get $1 million gift, 2 500K gifts, 4 250K gifts, and some smaller donations. I already have the million secured and I have my first 500K. I need the second 500K. I also need 2 of the 250Ks. I don't want to be presumptuous about what the right gift is for you, but I could really use your help here and here. So the giving pyramid comes with an actual physical representation of the amount of money that you're trying to raise. You can actually bring this into a meeting. Circle, shade things in. I have the first million. I have the first 500. I don't want to assume where you fit in, but here's what I need. You circle it. So you're kind of minimizing the options for the person you're asking for money without putting them in a box. And it's amazing how when you give someone choice, they end up choosing something rather than asking for an imaginary amount of money that doesn't exist yet. So the giving pyramid, this might not happen in your first meeting, but this might happen when you're getting closer to making the ask to somebody that you've built a relationship to. So we love the giving pyramid. I think it's a great tool. It also can be used at any amount of money. I know this is a big ask, but this could be representative of 100K, 20K, 25K, wherever it is that you're at. Okay, next slide. The brainstorm. This is one of my favorites. So I'm trying to raise $1 million by December. I have 250K in pledges so far. I would love to brainstorm with you on how to get other people involved. So this is a softer ask, right? This is like, you know that, what's that expression? When you want for money, ask for advice. This is like one of those. So you're engaging a funder to be a partner with you as you brainstorm who else you can ask for money. Can you go to the next slide, please, Lou? Here are some great questions that you can ask during a brainstorming meeting. Who do you know that would love this project? Who would have a vested interest in funding this project? What should I be thinking about before I go public with this? And then sneak it in. How would you like to be engaged? Right? So you're bringing this person on with you. You're asking for their advice. You're brainstorming with them, and you walk out of the meeting with a list of other people that you can contact. This way, if you do want to follow up with this person, they feel really involved and engaged in your project. Next slide, please. Number 5 is the upgrade. I sort of teased this in our OFB video on social media the other day. Lisa, I'm so grateful for your gift. Thank you. Tell me about your experience. What motivated you to give to me? Last year, you gave me 25K. Here's what I did with it. This year, I'm stepping up and I'm doing more for the community. I'm doing 2 cohorts instead of 1. And I'm asking all of my funders if they will grow with me. Would you consider giving 50K this year? So this is upgrading them from what they gave you last year and letting them evolve with you. And of course, this all has to be couched in impact, right? You have to be ready to be able to talk about how you're growing your impact, what that's going to look like for them. But what I love about the upgrade is it's like they're sharing in your success with you. They're growing with you. They're evolving with you. If you're asking for more money and you're growing your budget, that means that they've had a part to play in that. So that's the upgrade. Number 6. Next slide. This is the challenge grant, also known as a matching grant. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this one. Last year, you gave us $500. This year, I have a special challenge grant where for every gift over $1,000, American Express has promised to match it 1-for-1 up to 10K. Would you be willing to come up to 1K? So this is an interesting one, right? Where it's like, if you have a grant that's been guaranteed to you by another donor, you can actually ask that donor, can I position your donation as a challenge grant? You can ask them outright if you can leverage that grant to raise more money. And when people feel like there's a 1-to-1 match for every dollar they give, it really does incite them to give more. So giving this level to say, if you come up to 1K, I can get it matched, can also be a great incentive. And then finally, number 7, the closer. So, Anne, I'm raising scholarship funds for my leadership lab. I have 10 slots. I have 7 secured. If you sponsor 2 scholarships, I know that I can round out that last one. What do you say? Right? This is the closer. How can you as a funder help me close out my fundraising goal? Funders feel good help knowing that they helped you get to the finish line. So these are just 7 ways. There are obviously many, many more. I'm going to pause here and take a few minutes to either hear some reflections, if there are any alums, especially in the room, who have used any of these asks and have had some success and would like to share with the rest of the group or not, or challenges. I also saw a hand raised. I would be more than happy to take a couple of minutes to talk about this before we move on. Nalisa.
Hi there.
Hi.
Thank you for hosting this. This has been amazing so far. So thank you.
You're welcome.
My question is regarding the matching.
Mm.
So, for example, Miami Give Day is coming up, and there's an opportunity to get matching corporate dollars or anything. So, if we've been working with a relationship, I wanted to know how exactly is the best way to set up that relationship since we have some work to do before the actual day. And how does the
Yeah.
matching work relating to the Miami Foundation?
So Give Miami Day is such a great opportunity to put these things into practice, actually, like coming right around the corner in November. So I think one of the, if I remember correctly, on Give Miami Day, there are specific matching opportunities, sometimes aligned to your sector, sometimes aligned to the time of day. So I would say knowing in advance as much as possible when those matching moments are happening and teeing up your donors in advance, letting them know really early on, hey, these are the matching opportunities for our organization. We would love for you to participate. And always, as usual, tying it to the impact that you're going to have with that donation, right? Reminding them that if they do this, here's as a result what's going to happen. So yeah, matching during Give Miami Day is a great kind of mini case study of how you can put this into practice.
And outcomes, when you say, I had a specific question about supporting making something free for a school, for example. If you're able to show the cost of that and the free, and the result is the impact, the result of the students, or is it the end result for the school per se?
Oh, I mean, I think both of those are great ways to describe your impact.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the impact for the student, right? Like we always want to understand the outcome for the student, right? I think that's a great way to do it. So that's another way that you can position a challenge grant is you could make it around a very specific campaign. You could say like, at 3:05 on Give Miami Day, we have a matching opportunity and we are going to drive every dollar we raise during that matching opportunity towards this one particular program or this one initiative, right? It keeps it even more focused. Rather than just like give our organization money, you can build a campaign out of it. You're
Hi.
welcome.
Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm Julie Robinson. I have um, my give is has been a lot of elected officials, and it becomes challenging because I founded and run the only women's veterans organization in South Florida.
Wow.
And it's become a challenge because many a times I have no idea how to approach um, certain donors, the elected officials. My challenge, a lot of what you said is some of the things that I've done, or many of the things that you said in this making the ask is some of the things that I've done because I always bring them in to want to find out what it is, what are their priorities, what it is that they choose, what would they get out of this, and how does it make them look? What is it? What can we do to work together, and not always trying to put my priorities and how I feel and what I think should go just to bring them into what we're doing. I'm nervous. I'm so nervous. But right now, I have been trying to become a part of Radical Partners forever. And I am so excited about all the things that I've seen and heard. Miami Foundation has been one of the foundations that has built my organization, that's been there to support us throughout the years. And I'm just happy to be a part of Radical Partners finally.
Thank you so
And
much, Julie.
yeah, and so
Thank
thank you
you.
for this class. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate your words and I appreciate you sharing your experience too. I think that was really good advice for all of us, right? It goes back to the reciprocity we were talking about at the beginning. These asks only work if it's coming from a place of like mutual respect and understanding where they're coming from too and what their interest is as well. Going back to one of the mindset shifts that Joanne talked about last time, right? I think sometimes the misconception we have with making an ask is that like somehow we're begging for money or it's a one-way exchange. It's not. It's also in the interest of the philanthropist or the donor to do what they do best as well, which is invest in you, invest in the community. And in a way, they're looking for a return on that. So it's absolutely a two-way street. I'd love to chat with you afterwards more about the elected officials part. I think there's definitely some, I'm sure, some additional challenges there that you have more experience with than I do. All right, thank you so much. I'm going to move us along. Feel free to, if you didn't get a chance to ask your question, jot it down. We'll have time at the end as well. All right, so it's your turn. In your worksheet, you have a little space where you can choose one of the asks. Jot down who you're asking in your mind. So imagine a donor that you want to ask for money and take 1 minute to jot down a little script like, okay, I have a donor in mind. I'm going to do the closer. Jot it down, because in 1 minute, we're going to put you in breakout rooms with one other person, and you're going to have 5 minutes to practice your ask. Each of you is going to take 2.5 minutes to kind of, like what I did, like a role play scenario, like kind of imagine, okay, this is the person I'm asking, and make the ask. And then you're going to get a chance to hear some feedback from your partner. I know this is not comfortable. I know that but the only way that we can do this is by practicing and pushing through that discomfort. So Lou, whenever you're ready, she's going to put you into breakout rooms. Don't overthink it, and try out one of the asks. Welcome back. Welcome back. I see people laughing. It's always so awkward when the breakout rooms close. All right. Thank you all for taking part in that little experiment. It's always hard with these big groups when people are jumping in and out of the session. So I hope some of you had a chance to actually practice. By show of hands, how many of you didn't actually practice and just talked about the asks? Oh, okay. Good job.
We still have a few people that didn't
Are
come
they still
yet.
not
Yeah.
back yet? All right,
Yeah.
let's give them a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Here they are.
There we go. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for taking part in our little breakout room experiment. I know some of you had some technical difficulties, so thanks for your patience. I'm going to ask this question I just asked before. How many of you actually practiced versus just talking about the different asks? Put it in the chat. Did you actually practice? If you did, feel free to share a word. Yes, it was very fast. Good, amazing. So it did go by quickly. Next time we will definitely try to put more time there for you to practice, but I do encourage you to take this and practice with your teammates, practice with your colleagues. Practice definitely makes perfect in this case. All right, I am going to move it along. Great. I'm glad to hear some of you got good feedback and suggestions. That's awesome. All right, next slide, please. So now that we have raised the money, right? Because we made the asks, we built the budget, we made the asks, we wrote the grants, we made the asks, and we got the money. Now what, right? It's all about relationships. Somebody, a few of you at the beginning when you dropped in a word said it's about relationships, right? That's what this is all about. So next slide is we're going to talk about, once you have built these funder relationships, how do you keep them healthy and strong? How do you nurture your people? These are just a few ideas, and it'll depend on the funder, right? First one is there are funders who respond most to meaning, right? They want to see pictures, they want to see videos, they want to hear testimonials, right? Second one, visibility. Some donors are all about the visibility. The way that you nurture them is by shouting them out on social media, putting their logo on your website, putting it in your impact reports, bringing them on for Instagram lives, right? There are some funders that love visibility. Third is impact on the community, site visits, right? Getting them to come to meet your beneficiaries, come to your communities, come into the schools where you work. The fourth is access and reputation. There's some funders that really are searching for connections through you, connections to other nonprofits, connections to other funders potentially that they haven't partnered with, access to certain events or conferences or galas or whatever it is. That is important to them. Number five is sort of this sense of duty, right? Like understanding how severe and challenging the issue is that you're trying to solve. So feeding them and nurturing them with that data, with updates on things that are happening in your sector, with how challenges are continuing to evolve, keep them linked, like hooked into the purpose of your mission in that way. Number six is financial reward. There are some funders who respond really well to understanding the dollar kind of per person impacted, or dollars per school, or exactly the way that their money has been broken down into your impact. So breaking it down by the donation. Affirmation and love. I mean, some funders just love getting thank you notes, handwritten cards, things that really make them feel loved. Resources, information, press clippings, if you're ever in the media or you've ever written an article, sending that, sharing that with them. They love that. Sometimes it's swag, right? Sometimes it's sending them a t-shirt or a mug or a framed photograph, right? This is certainly not large gifts. These are small symbolic gifts if you can. So each funder is different, and the way that you nurture them will depend on your relationship with them. But one of the best things you can do is try to understand how it is that they like to be nurtured. And honestly, sometimes I ask this outright. When I get a grant, I will ask the funder, what is it that I can do to make me your favorite grantee? Outright. Like, what is it that you are looking for from me? And you'd be surprised at the amount of honest information you get. I have one philanthropist who's been supporting us for years, and she really just wants to receive an impact report once a year. She doesn't want her logo on anything. She doesn't want to attend anything. She doesn't want to be shouted out. She is like, I like to be in the background. I support you. I love what you do. Please let me know how it goes when it's concluded. And let's have a conversation. And that's it. And I'm glad that I asked her, because that way I'm not emailing her every time we have an event or shouting her out on social media when she doesn't want to be shouted out. So sometimes asking that question explicitly is the best way to learn. Next slide, please.
Alia, we have a question in the chat.
Yes,
so
please.
Jason is asking if we always need to ask before placing the logos funder on the website, even though they have funded already a project.
Yes. I think it's good practice to always ask every year. Things could change depending on the board, depending on if they have a new marketing and communications team. It's happened to me before, actually, where I've put the logo on the site and then they're like, we have a new logo. And you're like, oh, shoot, sorry, I wish I had asked. So always a good idea to ask. Let's see, Nalisa, go ahead.
I just wanted to say also, when you get with the marketing teams of whatever who's from, it's really great because a lot of the times they'll send you like materials to give with their logos on it and stuff like that because they want to promote their brand. So I just wanted to say that, like, if you're reaching out to any decision maker, ask them to like connect you with your marketing teams because you want to get brand approval and you're not sure if it's like the updated, that stuff, because in the past it's been remarkable to see like them actually send out materials with their logo and not have us do it. So I just wanted to share that.
I love that. That's great advice. Yeah, you'll be surprised what you get, if you engage them. And also some have very specific marketing and communications guidelines, like when you shout them out, they want you to say a very specific thing. So always good to get ahead of that information. Next slide, please. I love that you all are sharing your experiences in the chat. Please keep doing so. I love that. So this is what I call our nurture chart. This is a way for you to keep track of how you're nurturing your funders, when the last time you nurtured them was, and when you plan to do it again. I love this for a few reasons. It helps me track what I've done and what I plan on doing. It helps hold myself accountable. And it also creates sort of institutional knowledge for your organization. So imagine, you know, if your lead fundraiser were to leave and they were the ones who held all of these relationships and all of this nurturing. This type of a nurture chart is something you can hand over to the next person on your team that will allow them to pick up from where you left off. So this can be called lots of things, you know, prospect list, a nurture chart, whatever it is, but it's a great way to know how often you're engaging your funders. All right, next slide, please. I would love for you to just take, let's see, 3 minutes and jot down, you know, what are 3 specific ways you're going to nurture your donors this week? Did this spark an idea? Did you think, oh, you know, I haven't written to that person for a while, or we just launched the program and I didn't ask them about their guidelines, or I really want to send them all a thank you note, whatever it is, take a second and just jot down 3 specific ways you're going to nurture your donors. I think a lot of people are done. If you could give me a little thumbs up when you're done. Great. We'll give like 30 more seconds. Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Lou. All right, I'm going to move us right along to, this is kind of where I want to land today. We've talked about 7 different types of asks. We've talked about how to nurture your relationships once they've been established. And then sometimes if you're not sure how to nurture them, like what are my options, like concrete ways to connect? These are ones that we lean on all the time. Old school thank you notes, informal status updates. There are some donors who like, a text message, like a quick little like, hey, thought of you today. This is what happened. Press clippings, inviting them to site visits. This one is one of my favorites. This is also an RFL classic that I've started to integrate, is including them in your decks and speeches. If you are presenting at a conference or you're doing a speech at a gala, rather than just shouting them out, actually mentioning them, like telling a story that highlights them or highlights the person that you have the relationship with. If you do this in front of a crowd of people, it really can make them feel very loved and seen and appreciated beyond just their logo being on your slide. So find ways to weave them into your presentations, your speeches. Congratulate them. So a great trick is to set up Google Alerts with the name of your funder. It can be the name of the individual you have a relationship with or the name of the foundation. That means that anytime that they're in the news or they send out a press release, you'll get a Google alert. And it's a great opportunity to reach out to your funder and be like, congratulations, I just saw the news. This is huge. You launched a new fund, or you won an award, or you met your impact goals for the year. So yeah, Google Alerts are definitely a great way. And then of course, annual reports, right? I think this is probably the most straightforward, the one that we're most used to doing. The end of the year when you've had your your yearly impact report, sending it to them to make sure that they can see the scope of what you've achieved together.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much. If you haven't finished the survey, please let us know and finish it whenever we wrap up this session. But before I let you all go, I wanted to share with you some resources available as well on this fundraising time that we are at right now. So remember that you also have available some capacity building and community building events in preparation for Give Miami Day, which is happening in November. So please make sure to check out the website at givemiamiday.org/hub. And other you have also some resources for you to prepare for Give Miami Day. Other things available that you would have, it's the Able Loan application through the Miami Open for Business. Tomorrow we're having a virtual preparation session for the loans, for the Able loan. So if your organization is still on the position, being able to take a loan, make sure you drop into this session tomorrow so that you can learn more about what you need in order for it to apply for it. The other things that I wanted to share with you all and reinforce it is that you have individual office hours available with topic experts. Again, these are free one-on-one office hours with leaders and masterminds into fundraising, strategy, communications, operations, sustainability. So even if you have questions about like outputs and outcomes, which I heard like today, you have Lara, who's an expert in impact evaluation. But if you want to think about the strategy, you also have Francesca and Yanni. So remember, you can leverage these 11 experts, 12 experts that you can take advantage of and ask specific questions regarding your organization, and they can support you on those 45 minutes. So with that, I'll go into the next steps and how you can access these. Please make sure you sign up through the intake form in order for you to receive all of this information. So if you made it to this room just because someone sent you the link, please make sure you sign up through the, okay, there you go.
There we go.
It's moving. Please make sure you sign up through the intake form for the Miami Open for Business so that you can receive emails from me regarding how to sign up for the future workshops, how to access the office hours, and the password for the office hours, because remember, this is a password protected website. The second one, again, reinforcing it, please take advantage of the office hours and topic experts. They're they're gonna happen next week and the first week of the following month. The next thing is please make sure you check out your email. I'm going to be sending emails at the beginning of the month for the opportunities of the month, meaning workshops, again, access to office hours and any other resources. So the communications are coming out my way. So please make sure you stay tuned on your email. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me as well. And we hope to see you on our next workshop happening October 19th, again at 9 a.m. via Zoom. And we're going to move into the next phase or the next topic, which is going to be operations. So we're going to be focusing on the basics of 501c3, legal and governance. So we also have a topic expert coming in to share the knowledge with you all. So with that, I want to thank you for coming to keep rocking it.